My name is Kira Scruggs. This is for Concord University's Reading 520 class. And the purpose of this video is an interview with a reading specialist.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Turner. I am a reading specialist at Sophia Soap Creek. I have been teaching this is my 25th year. I started as a first grade teacher, and I did that probably for 10 years, and then I've been entitled for the remaining.
Where did you get your degree?
At that time it was Marshall. Yes.
Okay. And I just want to confirm that I do have your consent to video.
Yes.
Okay. So, first question. Did research play a role in your professional education?
Yes, it did. When I taught first grade, I had actually encountered some students who really had some trouble like grasping how to read, and so I started reading some educational journals, and when I started reading those, it led me to be able to go into that field, and I wanted to be able to help those children. And in order to do that, I started taking beginning reading specialist classes so that I would be able to understand why the children were not picking up the way they should be.
Okay. Next question. This interview is about the use of educational research in the classroom. Tell me about educational research and how it relates to you and your classroom.
Okay, as far as with being a title teacher, what we do is we look at the data all the time, and we test, and our groups are fluid. They move from one group to the next, and depending on like how that they are progressing, and then like with the programs and things that we use, like it will give us ideas and things that we can do in order to help those students. We use a lot of different technologies within that as far as the testing.
What different scores and data do you have to look at?
Okay, we do the STAR data, and we look at that. We do the early intervention, the PALS testing, and we do that, and we do that with the classroom teachers, the principal, and we do those in small groups. And then we talk about the students. We look at classroom data. We look at those testing scores, and then we make a decision on where the student needs to be and what needs to be done.
Okay. Tell me about your experience with research, both in the classroom and while you were in school.
Okay. As far as it was research actually that led me to be a reading specialist, because as I said earlier, when I was teaching, I encountered some students that no matter how hard I tried, they were not learning to read. And as a beginning teacher, I took it personally, and I felt that there was something that I wasn't doing. And so I started reading a lot of educational journals and figuring out, what is it that I'm not doing that I need to be doing. And then through that, I learned that a lot of the times that as we're teaching, we are teaching the skills in isolation, and that children, when they're learning to read, they may do a skill in isolation, but then they can't apply that skill otherwise. And so that was the biggest thing as far as with education that I have learned, that we need to not teach the skills in isolation, but be able to teach the skills all at one time, to where, whatever the story they're reading, if it's cause and effect, we need to go over cause and effect at that time instead of waiting for a worksheet. And I feel that worksheets are probably one of the worst things that you can do as a teacher. I think, just hands-on experience, talking about it, talking about what the main idea is, stopping, making mental visions as the student's reading, what do you see, and all of those play a big part.
Okay, how do you specifically use research in your classroom aside from just the data?
Okay.
What do you use the data for?
Okay, we actually look at the scores, and then we divide the scores into like the bottom, the middle, and the high, and then we group our students according to that, which I know sometimes people say that grouping's not good, but as from what we have seen, when the children are low, and that we can focus on that skills that they need for a particular concept, and we have the students that are low in that particular concept, then we're teaching the same concept, because apparently on the testing they did not pass that. And so as far as that, we look at the skills, we look at the student, we look at the classroom behavior, we look at everything, and then that way we make a decision on what is best for the child, because at the end of the day it's all about what's best for the child.
Okay, when someone recommends a new strategy, how do you decide if it's the right fit for your classroom and for use in your way of teaching, since you're not with the students all 8 hours of the day?
Okay, basically trial and error. And the one thing that I have learned with 25 years of experience is not one thing will fit every child, and that every child is different, and you have to keep on trying until you find that one thing that's going to work with that one child. And coming also from a first grade background, and then I have a special education background, I feel that as the students are progressing, that I spot if there's a problem that is just something that they're not getting, or if there is maybe a learning disability, a mental disability, that we need to work on that. Because I think sometimes that children are placed in, especially learning disabled classrooms, that really are not learning disabled. It's just that they have not received the best instruction that they could have, and I feel like sometimes we overlook that, and I feel like that's a problem that we have to overcome as educators, because just because a child scores low does not mean that child needs to be in some type of special services. We need to make sure that we are reaching the needs of the children.
Do you feel that your background in special ed has given you kind of an edge over others who maybe haven't been in a special education classroom or worked with special education children, in identifying whether it's just a shortcoming or if there's a more serious issue at play?
I absolutely do. I feel that, first of all, from starting with a kindergarten, first grade background, and then going into the reading program, that was tremendous. That helped me tremendously. But then taking that a little bit farther and going into the special education, I feel like that if a child is having trouble, and I feel like that I can definitely pick up on that. I feel that every classroom teacher, especially K through 3, needs to have a reading endorsement. I feel like without that, I feel like that there's so many times that they miss what they need to be doing. And I know that some people may not agree with that, but I really feel strongly that if you teach K through 3, that you need to be a reading specialist.
Okay. What role do you think technology plays in educational research specifically?
Oh gosh, educational research is definitely kind of like guides everything that we do. And in order for us to keep fluent and learning in what we need to be doing and what we need to be teaching, everything changes. And as a teacher, I feel like that we have to be able to change with that. If I ever get to the point to where I feel like that I do not want to learn anything else, that I am just stuck in my ways, then it's time to quit, because I feel like there's so much out there and so much that we can do, and I really feel like the teachers who do not use the technology, that they're really hurting themselves, because there's so much out there that we can do only if we will accept it and do it.
All right. Where do you think educational research has gone, and where do you think it will be 10 years from now?
Okay. From back when I first started teaching, with the Basil book, standing in front of the classroom, doing some sight words, and relying totally on that book, to where now it's been hard for me, because I am in my 50s. It's been hard for me to do the technology, but I have actually went to summer trainings 3 years in a row, and I didn't want to get left behind with what was coming up. And I feel like I did the school's yearbook, our videos and things for the school, and 25 years ago, I would have never thought that that would have even been possible. At one time, I didn't even have an email address. And so I think that all of that is so changing that we have to be able to do those things, or we need to just think about it's time for retirement. So as far as what's coming up, I feel that it's just going to keep broadening, and there's going to be so much, and there's going to be so much that we can do through technology. I feel technology is a wonderful tool and that we need to use it.
Okay, last question. What advice would you give a new classroom teacher like myself, going into my second year, and a soon-to-be new reading specialist about using research in the classroom?
The biggest thing that you can do is to read educational journals. Read those journals and see what's new. Don't get left behind and not knowing what's new and what's coming up. And always make sure that you are learning and continue to learn. When we just sit still and we're not doing anything, then that's when there seems to be a problem. But always stay active, try to keep your mind active, and just do the best that you can do, and definitely read the educational journals.
All right. Thank you very much. I
Thank
greatly
you.
appreciate you doing this interview for me. I am Kira Scruggs. This is for my Education 520 class at Concord University. And thank you for watching.